let's talk about Russell Wilson and the Steelers. They just suffered a tough loss today against the Kansas City Chiefs. They have now lost their last 3 games in a row. They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, they lost to the Baltimore Ravens, and they just lost today's game against the Chiefs. Everyone knew at the beginning point of the season that this window right here was going to be the toughest stretch for the Steelers. 3 games in 11 days is crazy for anyone involved, whether it's the Chiefs, the Texans, Steelers, whomever, Ravens, doesn't matter. 3 games in 11 days is tough on anyone. Look at Isaiah Pacheco. He took a regular hit and he was out for the rest of the game. This game right here came down to the players not stepping up and to Coach Tomlin getting out coached by Andy Reid. One of the plays that really pissed me off in this matchup, bad officiating, but at the same time, throw the challenge flag, Coach Tomlin. The wide receiver did not catch this football. He didn't. But the Chiefs go out there. They're a disciplined team. They've won so many Super Bowls over the last few years because of this. They run hurry-up offense. They get 4 yards off the next play. And you can hear the commentator saying, hey, he didn't catch the football. He bobbled it. And you can see all the fans, they're booing because they knew that it wasn't a catch. Mike Tomlin had the ability to go out there and throw the challenge flag, but he didn't. I've seen Nick Sirianni do this in the past. The same with Mike McCarthy, the head coach with the Dallas Cowboys. Mike Tomlin had his hands in his pockets, let the play go. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they went out there and they capitalized. The amazing defense that the Steelers have, quote unquote, they went out there and they let Patrick Mahomes slice and dice them. Patrick Mahomes has owned the Steelers defense throughout his entire career so far in the NFL. And the same can be said for Tom Brady with the exception of a bad game here or there. Mike Tomlin got outcoached in today's matchup. And I haven't brought up these points in the last few videos because I thought Mike Tomlin was going to coach better. And I'm not blaming all of this on Coach Tomlin. In that Browns game many weeks ago, Thursday Night Football, you accepted a penalty and you gave the Cleveland Browns an extra down. And they went out there and they scored a touchdown on that same drive. What are the Steelers doing? What are you doing? You're a veteran head coach. Russell Wilson is a veteran quarterback. You can't have these rookie mistakes. Mike Tomlin is better than this. When I look at Russell Wilson, the turnovers aren't helping this team. You had a play early in the game. They called it back. They said that Darnell Washington was holding the player. Now, in my opinion, that's not a regular hold. That's just a regular block. But it is what it is. They called a touchdown back from Jaylen Warren. Russell Wilson, the next play, throws an interception across the middle of the field. You can't have these plays. You threw a pick 6 last week against the Ravens. You fumbled last week in the red zone against the Ravens. You have to take care of the football. When you're going against elite level competition, more than likely you're going against elite level quarterback play. The Baltimore Ravens, they're our elite team in the AFC. Lamar Jackson, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. When you have turnovers like this, you're giving Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson the football back. They're going to cash in eventually on your defense. And Big Pat had a major fumble in today's game, and it put the Chiefs right into scoring range. You can't have those type of mistakes. And Big Pat, he is becoming a solid tight end on a weekly basis. Not a bad player. But he knows you don't put the football on your inside position. You always carry it on the outside because you're trying to make a play on the 3rd and 15. If you're trying to go out there and dance around, that's why you put the ball more towards the sideline. And we've seen Eagles players go out there and do this. Cowboy players go out there and do this. Ravens players did it last week. You put the ball on the outside. So if you do get stripped, it goes out of bounds. You retain possession. That's just a mental lapse by the players. You can say the coaching. No, that's the players going out there not stepping up. You have to know this. They teach you this in college and they teach you this in high school. You can't have those type of plays. They can't overcome those plays. This is Steelers offense right now. It's not terrible. But when they're gaining momentum, they can't overcome negative plays with Russell Wilson taking dumb sacks. He got sacked and pressured a lot in today's game. And Chris Jones missed today's matchup. The Chiefs' best defensive player was not on the field, and they still found a way to get pressure. This offensive line has not looked particularly good in the last 2 games either. And I was worried about this. Broderick Jones is not supposed to be a starting tackle right now. Troy Fautanu is supposed to be in this spot. The big rookie that got injured early in the season with a dislocated knee injury. James Daniels at the right guard position. He is supposed to be in that spot. And he was a top guard before he tore his Achilles against the Indianapolis Colts. So we could talk about the injury on the defensive side of the ball and at the wide receiving position over the last few weeks. This offensive line, they're starting to show some cracks. And Russell Wilson doesn't have the same mobility that he once had. I'm not blaming all of this on Russell Wilson. I'm not blaming all of this on Coach Tomlin. This is a group effort. Everyone is to blame. When I look at this defense, Patrick Mahomes is just running around having all day in the pocket. Once again, Andy Reid is going out there. He's letting them rush Patrick Mahomes, get the football out quick to Travis Kelce, get the football out quick to Hollywood Brown. But the Steelers aren't making adjustments. The Chiefs went to the second half. They made adjustments. Coach Austin, the defensive coordinator for the Steelers, did not make adjustments. And we saw this last week against the Ravens. You came out in the same cover defense that you ran in the first half. And I understand no Joey Porter Jr. in this matchup. He's dealing with a knee injury. Hopefully he'll be able to return for the season finale against the Bengals. But at this point, if I'm the Steelers, I just may sit starters because it's a great chance now that the Baltimore Ravens will win this division and they get a home playoff game and the Steelers have to be on the road. This is what you wanted to avoid. The Steelers have collapsed in the last 3 games. With or without George Pickens, they have to look better. Against the Kansas City Chiefs, George Pickens was able to come back. You only scored 10 points because of your own wrongdoing. Last week against the Baltimore Ravens, you only walked away with 17 points, but you could have potentially had 24 points on the board or even more if Russell Wilson takes care of the football. The Steelers are beating themselves, and the opposing team, they're just taking advantage of those penalties. They're taking advantage of those turnovers. The defense hasn't looked the same. And TJ Watt, phenomenal player. He's had a lot of great moments this season. The same with Alex Highsmith and Herbig. They need to bring in more of a rotation with those linebackers. Herbig, they basically have forgotten about him since Alex Highsmith has come back. And Alex Highsmith is a phenomenal player. But have a rotation there with him and Herbig. Put Herbig in even more. Cameron Hayward went down in today's game, but he's expected to be okay long term. We will see. Patrick Queen was having a lot of good games in a row. Patrick Queen the last 3 weeks has not looked good. Patrick Queen against the Philadelphia Eagles was getting tested a lot. Against the Baltimore Ravens last week, they were on him. He could not go out there and cover Mark Andrews, his former teammate. He was getting exposed. In today's matchup, he had a chance for an interception. He just couldn't cash in. The defenders got their hands up. They tried to bring the ball down. It just didn't happen for them. You've allowed over 400 yards of offense in back-to-back games so far. That is not going to help you out in the NFL playoffs. When you get to the NFL playoffs, you're facing elite level teams. You're going to run into the Buffalo Bills. You're going to run into the Baltimore Ravens. You're going to run into the Kansas City Chiefs. You have to defeat those teams. Extra rest will help for sure. Don't get me wrong. All 4 teams that played today, they're going to get an extra rest because they have played in back-to-back games, it seems like. Short week, yes, but the Kansas City Chiefs are dealing with the same problem, and they're without their star defensive player. They made the right adjustments because of coaching. And at some point in time, we have to hold Mike Tomlin accountable. I'm not going to come on here and say, fire Mike Tomlin. He's the reason. Sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. You lose to the better team. It happens, but you have to perform better against those teams. And right now, the expectation for the Steelers, and this is Mike Tomlin, the standard is a standard. The standard is not to go out there and get punched in your mouth on a week in and week out basis by the Philadelphia Eagles, Baltimore Ravens, or Kansas City Chiefs. I'm sorry. I have higher expectations for this team and this organization because of the head coach, because of the veteran quarterback. And I still do believe that the Steelers will figure things out. They just have to go out there and get fully rested. When I look at the run game, Najee Harris, I continue to say this, and I said this even when he was having good games, 3 games in a row. Najee Harris is not a terrible running back, but he's a drive killer. Whenever they bring Najee Harris in the game, he doesn't have the same explosiveness come out of the backfield as Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren had a solid game. 11 carries, 71 rushing yards. And Najee Harris did have 13 carries, 74 rushing yards, but Najee Harris came in. A lot of those times was just free boxes. The team was already down. Jaylen Warren in the first half was making his impact over and over again. Jaylen Warren right now is the better running back. You can't say Najee Harris, and Najee Harris more than likely will put up over 1,000 yards this season. That means he's going to have 1,000 yards in every single season of his career. Shout out to him. But they declined his 5th-year option. If he doesn't go out there and perform better in the NFL postseason, it's a great chance they're going to move off from Najee Harris and he'll be on a different team. Not a bad running back, but he was not worth that first-round pick, especially with how Jaylen Warren comes in and chases the game. When I look at George Pickens was able to go out there and he had 3 catches, 50 receiving yards. He's their best explosive threat on the outside. Big Pat did have more receiving yards in this matchup, 7 catches, 60 receiving yards, but he had the fumble that put the team behind the 8 ball. But when I look at George Pickens, having him back is going to help this team out. Calvin Austin III in today's matchup, 4 catches, 31 receiving yards. This was a man that was a true number 1 wide receiver when George Pickens went out the game. Arthur Smith has to be a better play caller. This is a group effort here. The play calling in today's matchup did not help out either. When your offensive line is struggling, go to quick game. Build space for guys like Calvin Austin III and dump the football down to him. Do slip screens to Pat at the tight end spot. Find a way to move George Pickens around. I rarely ever see George Pickens moved around the field. He's always on the left side of the field. He's never on the right side. They brought in Mike Williams to try to take some deep shots to him, but Mike Williams is not the same player that he once was. It was a possible play to go out there, but the safety got a hand on the football and Mike Williams, they canceled out the play. This was just an unfortunate turn of events for the Steelers to go out there and to not do anything in the second half. That speaks volumes on coaching and the players just not stepping up. And the Steelers did have 3 points. So excuse me on that. They had 3 points in the third quarter. They didn't score in the first quarter. They scored a touchdown in the second quarter. That was it. The fourth quarter, the Chiefs had 13 points and you had 0. And you had chances to go down there and score touchdowns, but you just couldn't capitalize on it. I'm just looking at the Steelers right now. I don't know what is going on with this team. You could say that it's a bunch of situations to where the players are tired. They're just not stepping up. But something has to change. They have to get things situated here. They did not sack Patrick Mahomes in today's game. He was comfortable inside the pocket. And they were holding TJ Watt. They were not calling the holds, but he's dealt with this throughout his entire career. We can blame the officials for this matchup with the Steelers losing. You can blame the officials. You can blame certain situations. The fact that they had to play 3 games in 11 days. But at the end of the day, the Steelers have to play better. And I expect for them to go out there in the next couple of weeks and to defeat the Cincinnati Bengals. But it's a true chance that this team will be on the road in the NFL playoffs. And that is a scary sight if you are a Steelers fan, because this is a team underneath Coach Tomlin that has not won a playoff game since 2016. I don't think that Russell Wilson is a terrible quarterback. I don't think that the Steelers are a terrible team. But right now with how they're playing, it's not going to cut it. The players have to step up on both sides of the football, more so on the offensive end than the defensive end. I know that TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward and a guy and Alex Highsmith can all be game changers. And I know they're secondary. They've had some good moments this season, but the coaching has to be better. And Russell Wilson has to be better in crucial situations. You can't go out there and turn the football over in the red zone, especially in back-to-back weeks. You don't want this to be a constant with Russell Wilson. And this is also a man that is playing for a contract extension. Yes, the Denver Broncos are still paying him. He's on a 1-year deal with the Steelers. And I don't believe that Justin Fields is a long-term option either. It should be Russell Wilson. But when you look at these last couple games, he has not played well. Forget the yards. When you go to the eye test, he has not played well. He's holding on to the football for too long, and you can get away with that when you're a younger player. When you have the mobility like Justin Fields, you can go out there and take the deep shots down the field. Russell Wilson doesn't have the same mobility. He does have the ability to move around, but he's not the same player that he was with the Seattle Seahawks. And all the ugly things that you saw last season with Russell Wilson, you're starting to see come to light right now with the Steelers. The offensive line has to do a better job protecting Russell Wilson, and he has to do a better job of getting the football out quicker. He can throw the football deep down the field, especially in the middle of the field, to Calvin Austin III. Go back to what you did against the Cincinnati Bengals. Go back to what you did against the Cleveland Browns. Run more up-tempo offense and find a way to get a push up front. But I'm afraid right now that the Steelers may be exposed in the last 3 games, but we will see. Hopefully they can get some rest. They'll get healthier, and the same for all 4 of these teams. This was a brutal gauntlet. And I'm going to also say this. For the NFL to have 4 teams go out there and play 3 games in 11 days is ridiculous. At least give these teams a week off and then have them play on Christmas Day. I think that's the way to go about it. Because when I look at the situation now with the Houston Texans, Tank Dell is out dealing with a knee injury. The Kansas City Chiefs, Chris Jones out with a calf injury. Those guys, especially with Chris Jones and Joey Porter Jr., they possibly would have been able to play if this game was on Sunday instead of this game being on Wednesday. But that's my 2 cents on the deal. If you watch this game on Netflix, Netflix did do a better job in terms of covering the live game. When it came down to the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, damn near unwatchable. But today's game was a better step up in terms of their streaming service and stepping things up. And I expect for more Christmas games to be on Netflix because the NFL, they love to make money. But let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the Steelers and have they been completely exposed? But most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. And Merry Christmas if you do celebrate the holiday.